Hello everyone, welcome to the next Java tutorial. In this tutorial, we are going to see how to implement the interfaces and abstract classes in Java. So basically just to explain this concept of interface, to modularize our Java program, interface is one of the greatest features that is available in the object-oriented principle. So for example, let's take a scenario where we have a class called as vehicle. Okay. So when we say a vehicle, there are two types of vehicles that we always see. One is bike and another one is car. Okay. So these are two types of vehicle that we can see. So let's say we want to list down all the features that are there for the bike and whatever the features that are there for the car. So if we just want to make a list, then what a bike can have is like it can have a brake probably, then bike has accelerator. Okay, then bike can also have horn. Then it has tires. So these are the some mandatory things that when you say a bike, it has to have these kinds of thing in place. Okay, then if we really think of a car, then car also have these things. That car also has these brakes. Car also has the horn, and it has also the tires as well. But somehow, if we talk about the special features that a bike or a car can provide, are really, we can list down them. Okay. So let's say, let's write about a car. So car have AC, which is not there in the bike. Then probably car have more safety, which is again not there in the bike. You can say there is more comfort when you travel in the car, so that is again not there in the bike in terms of the long run that if we want to travel for. But there are a couple of things that bike has which are not present in the car. The first thing that we can think of is the freedom to travel basically. So the way you get the freedom when you are biking out, it's really great, and that cannot be we cannot get that particular experience in the car. Okay, then one more thing that a bike has, that wherever your car cannot go, bike can go there. There can be some of the places where you cannot drive with the car, but you can really go ahead and take your bike there. Okay, so probably that can be one of the thing. So let's just list down that here, that wherever car cannot go, bike can take you there. Okay, so these are like the couple of features that we have listed. So these, whatever these column has, these are the mandatory feature, I would say, that each and every vehicle must have these features. Each and every vehicle must have brake, each and every vehicle must have horn, and each and every vehicle must have tires. Unless and until you have these basic things in place, you cannot design a bike, you cannot design a car, right? But these are some of the special features that these kinds of vehicle offer, as we have listed for bike and car. Okay, so these are the special features. Now what happens is, let's say we want to do some kind of similar implementation in the Java, and let's say you need to have these particular classes. Then straightforward, without using any of the object oriented feature, you can have this kind of implementation, that you can have one bike class, bike Java class. You can have another Java class called as car, and you can just create two methods. One is mandatory feature and another one is a special feature, and you can list down these kinds of things, that okay, when I say bike, I can just do system.out.println, and then bike has these mandatory features, and these are the special features that are provided by bike. In terms of car, again the similar thing. You can just have the car as a Java class, and there are two methods into it. One is mandatory feature, another one is special feature, and you just can have these special features listed there. But when it comes in terms of applying your object-oriented principles to these kinds of scenarios, I would say, or when your program is calculated in terms of its scalability, the best practices have you followed or not, then your program's value becomes zero. Okay, so in that case, we should have some kind of best practices in place where you should be able to use some of the very strong object oriented concepts like interfaces, abstract classes, and rest of the things as well. But in this particular tutorial, we are going to see how we can implement interface, how we can implement abstract class when we have these kinds of scenarios in front of us. Okay, so let's get started and see first of all how we can achieve this particular functionality or this particular use case that we have discussed by using the interface. Okay, so let me go ahead and create one package which you can see that I have already created here, called as interface demo. Okay, and let me just create one interface here. Okay, so here I just can create an interface called as iVehicle. So I stands for interface. Okay, so this is my interface, and let's say I wanted to have two kinds of functionality. When somebody says that okay vehicle, then when we say a vehicle, it must have some kind of mandatory feature and some kind of special features when it comes to vehicle. So let's add these two classes, sorry, two methods here. Okay, so first one is void mandatory features. Okay, and another one is void special features. Okay, so basically now the thing which you have to remember here, whenever you say that okay you have created an interface, now the classes who are going to implement this particular interface will have to have implement the definition for these two methods. One is mandatory feature and another one is special feature. Now let's add the bike implementation. Okay, so let's create a class called as bike. Okay, and let's implement this iVehicle feature, sorry, interface here. Okay, so when we say that this is a bike class that wants to implement the iVehicle, that means whatever methods are being declared by the iVehicle method, those you have to implement in this particular class. Okay, so here we are going to implement these two methods. One is this mandatory features and another one is special features. So let's say in the mandatory features, we will just create one file here, and we are going to write that okay, file utils dot write string to the file. That here I need to give name of the file first, so let me just copy it from one of the class that I have created. This is new file, and here I will just paste that. I'll just change the name to bike.txt. Okay, so we need to write what kind of text that we wanted to write in this particular file. Okay, so let's add this exception. Let's say the mandatory features are brake, comma horn, comma tires. Let's say I want to write this string in the file, and I just want to use UTF-8 as a character encoding. Okay, so basically whenever somebody will call this particular class, then it is going to call the mandatory features method, and it is certainly going to call the another method as well. So let's go ahead and write the similar thing into this. that let's say we will call this particular file as mandatory feature, and let's call this file as special features. Okay, and freedom is the first, and reach. Okay, this is the second feature that bike can provide over a car. Okay, now let's add the similar thing for the car as well. You create a new class, name it as car, implement the iVehicle interface and rest of the two methods as well. Okay, and you just write the similar thing that we have written for here. Instead of this bike, we will just name it as cars mandatory feature, which are the same, and it is the car special feature, which is nothing but the whatever we have listed here. Okay, AC, safety, comfort. Okay, so this is how we can have the implementation of interface. So whichever class who wants to implement this particular iVehicle interface, they have to implement the two methods into their implementation. Okay, and now let's say we will create a caller class. Let's name it as vehicle caller. Okay, and which is going to have a public static void main method. And here what we are going to do is we are going to have the iVehicle, okay, is equal to, let's say I wanted to have the bike class implementation here, and I'll call the mandatory feature method, and I'll call the special features method as well. Okay, so basically what we did here, since bike and car both the implementations are from these two classes are implementing the iVehicle interface, so that's why I just can initialize it to the iVehicle object, and based on the features that they have, the mandatory feature and special feature, it is going to call those classes. Now if we run this particular program of vehicle caller, then what output it is going to give is, it is going to create two files. First one is bike underscore mandatory, and second one is bike underscore special, and whatever string we have written into that particular file, it is going to create those file in the resources directory. Okay, if you see the path that we have given, it is we have asked Java to create these files into the resources directory. Now let's go ahead and run this vehicle caller here, and let's see what happens. Okay, so basically as we already mentioned, it has created these two files into the resources directory. The first one is mandatory bike underscore mandatory, which has these three mandatory things for a bike, and bike special has these two things here. Okay, on the similar line, if I create in the vehicle caller, if I create the object of this car, then it is going to again create two more files here, which will create car underscore mandatory and car underscore special. So let's go ahead and run this as well, so that it will create these four files here. Okay, so car underscore mandatory and car underscore special. Okay, all right. So now if you observe here, right, since we have created the interface implementation of the iVehicle interface for the two classes, bike and car, we have to implement in the bike, we have to implement the all these two methods, that because those are present in the uh, your interface declaration, and that's why it is compulsory to implement these two methods into the bike class as well as in the car class. So let's say tomorrow any new vehicle came. Let's say the third category of vehicle is, let's say, auto rickshaws, or you have aeroplanes as well. So what you need to do is, in this particular case, that you have to create these two classes, and there as well you have to implement these mandatory features and special features as the implementation classes. And if you really observe this particular thing, that whatever definition that we have written in the mandatory features is really duplicated one. Apart from the file names, everything is similar. So basically, since we are mentioning that it is a mandatory feature, all the mandatory features are same for any category of vehicle. Now let it be a bike, let it be a, four-wheeler car, let it be a auto rickshaw, or let it be a aeroplane. You have to have brakes to all these types of vehicle category, and that's why it is kind of a duplication of the code whenever you have applied the concept of interface with some kind of mandatory feature that is acting as a feature to that particular category. Because having a brake, having a horn, and having the tires is something that is mandatory for all kinds of vehicles. Okay, and that is why we need to have the concept of abstract classes in place, so that our code duplication will not take place. Okay, so we don't have to repeatedly write the mandatory feature method in each and every implementation of the vehicle, because it is a mandatory feature, right? So if you see the implementation of bike.java and car.java, apart from the file name, nothing is different. Each and everything is same, that whatever data that you want to write into that particular file is altogether the similar one, and that is why we would need the concept of abstract classes. Okay, so now let's understand how we can convert this particular thing and remove this duplication of mandatory feature by using the concept of abstract class. Okay, so let's go ahead and create one class called as abstract, let's say, let's name it as abstract vehicle. Okay, so, and just let me name this as abstract public class vehicle, and let's implement our iVehicle interface here. Okay, so this mandatory feature, right? Okay, so it is vehicle mandatory feature. Okay, so it is always going to create this vehicle mandatory feature, and it is always going to write this bike, horn, and tire into this particular mandatory feature, because it's a vehicle's mandatory feature. Okay, now what changes we need to make in the bike and car class? So basically, first of all, we have to extend this abstract vehicle class here. And when we extract abstract vehicle class, there is no necessity to write this mandatory feature in the independent implementation of this bike class, because anyways it is going to extend this abstract vehicle class, and abstract vehicle class has already implemented this particular feature of defining or writing the mandatory features into a file called as vehicle mandatory feature. So we are going to have this kind of mandatory feature file already been created because of this particular implementation. Okay, so now what you need to do is you need to do the similar thing in the car.java as well. So here you just can remove this thing and just extend abstract vehicle. Now why we have kept special feature here in the bike.java and car.java is because the definition of special features that are given by your bike and that are given by the car are different, and we want to keep this special features very particular about the vehicle type, and that's why we have the separate implementation of special features into the into these kinds of these kinds of classes that we have created. Okay. Now, since I am extending this abstract vehicle, I don't have to really implement the vehicle iVehicle interface. Okay. Instead, what we can do is in the abstract class itself, we can create one abstract method. Okay, called as, let's say, public abstract void special feature. So what is the name that we have given? It is a special features. Okay, and it is certainly going to throw IO exception. Okay, so this is how we can define the abstract class. So what does this abstract class says? That this abstract class has it is implementing the iVehicle interface. So since it is implementing the iVehicle interface, whatever implementation that it has in the iVehicle interface, it has to implement those features here. Okay, so here we can just remove this. So since this is a mandatory feature for iVehicle, so your abstract class is going to implement that feature. And apart from that, whatever special cases you have, for that you have just declared one method here called as special features, and you're implementing classes like your bike, car or auto rickshaw or aeroplane. Those will extend this special feature, and they will define their own logic into this particular thing. And that is what the concept of abstract class. Okay. Now, let's say whatever abstract class that we have created, let's assume that you want to run the bike and car classes with this two implementation. Okay, so let's go ahead and run. First of all, see how we can create the objects. Okay, so this is our vehicle caller, as you know. Okay, so basically, if you can just create the abstract vehicles object, let's say bike, okay, is equal to new bike, and you just can call bike dot mandatory features. Now see, even though in the bike dot class we don't have any implementation of mandatory features here, all the implementation or actual logic of mandatory feature is been implemented in the abstract vehicle class. Only the thing is, in the bike we are extending this abstract vehicle. Okay, so that's why we can just call it directly, and here bike dot special features. Okay, so special feature is the one that we have already implemented in the abstract class. Okay, so if we can just run this, then it should create these two files. One is vehicle resource, vehicle mandatory features that we have created using the abstract class, and the bike special is the special implementation that we have intentionally kept for the bike. Okay, all right. So I hope you understood the difference between the abstract class and interfaces, and you know how to implement those in your actual Java applications. Okay, thanks for watching this tutorial, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.